All right. Let's take a look at the rest of the class. So, as I said, from wide receiver, this is where things got started. And I'm assuming Packer fans were very happy when Golden was still on the board.
I'm sure you saw it.
Yes, knowing they needed the number one guy. And now it looks like they hope they've got one. Yeah. And then, of course, they also go to Williams, Savion Williams, who is a very interesting talent as well. Very talented kid. Actually, he reminds me a little bit of DK Metcalf, Savion.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of the traits of DK. That doesn't.
If you would have said Cordero, I would have ended the interview. I'm so tired of people saying that. I don't want to hear it
That's
anymore.
What they're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. No. So anyway, but talented kid, no doubt about it. They get both these kids elite. So how did it work? And what are they saying so far?
Yeah. So Savion has been extremely weird. He's wearing the red quarterback jersey right now in training camp. I don't know what that's about. I've never seen that before. I don't know if it's ever been directly addressed. He's practicing, maybe not quite to the extent as everybody else, but it's very odd. But haven't heard a ton about him. I don't think he's doing team activities, so you're not going to hear a lot of highlight stuff with him.
Okay.
Matthew Golden's been great. He's been running with the ones during those. They do like 2-minute at the end of mini camp and OTAs and whatnot. And he's been not the one from today, but I think yesterday in some OTA ones, he was kind of the go-to a couple times, converting a few first downs, getting down the field. I think the biggest thing with Matthew Golden, it's always 50% speed or whatever. So seeing that 4.29 or whatever that he has is going to take some time. Which, by the way, I don't know if you had talked about this with people, or whatever. I really never felt that I saw the 4.29 out of Matthew Golden. It was the weirdest thing. I know a few other people had said it, but when I watched him, you would expect him to just sail past people. I never saw it, but what I kept telling people is what I love about Golden isn't his speed anyways. If he has that, it's a bonus, and it's really shown out how natural of a receiver he is. Very crisp in his routes, very good hands, very good body control. So all the details of just kind of looking like a number one, just the little things, he's definitely done it so far. No drops, no crazy stuff like that. Just looks very smooth and fluid. Jordan Love today, I didn't get to see the full quote, but I just saw it real quick because today's mini camp just wrapped up. But it was some kind of a quote from Jordan about, he's definitely going to be a star for us on our team. So far it's all looking real good, and everyone feels real good about Matthew Golden.
Is there anything into then, because you mentioned about how this, and you draft 2 wide receivers early, it makes sense that the coaching staff wasn't as high on the overall unit past even needing a number one. Mm-hmm. And so is it possible that some of that is maybe proof in a way that it wasn't all Jordan Love last year?
I definitely think it means that is the team's perspective. Yes, for sure. I have my own questions about it. I think Jordan's being given a little bit too much of a pass, but there's no doubt that there were a lot of other, and who knows how many other issues there were outside of just the obvious drops, guys not running the right routes, the timing, the rhythm, all that stuff getting thrown off. We don't know those things watching on TV. But then, the other point that I had made is it was so difficult for Matt LaFleur to build an offense when you don't know who your receivers are. 1 week, like in the beginning of the season, Jaden Reed was the guy. He just is like, oh my goodness, he's a superstar. So it's like, okay, he's the guy. And then he dipped off. And then it was Romeo. All right, let's build the offense around Romeo. And then he sits out a game. He just decides he's having a mental health day or something. And he said, okay, we can't do that. And then Christian Watson, he gets hurt. And then, it's so hard. We need to just have a guy to be able to say, this is our guy. I think we gave Dobbs and Reed and Watson the opportunity to be that guy. Nobody stepped up, and so they really needed to attack that, I think, is the main point. And then on top of that, there are questions. In 2 years from now, I can't promise you Dobbs, Watson, or Wicks are on the team. I hope they, especially Watson, I'm a big fan, and Wicks is super talented if he could just catch the ball. But with Romeo kind of having some weird, issues, and Watson can't stay healthy, at the very least, we may have to be replacing people, not just a talent issue here. So it does make some sense that we went pretty hard at wide receiver.
Okay, and then Watson, what's the latest there?
He's hurt. I feel
Yeah,
terrible.
right.
I feel
What else
terrible
is
for him
there?
because I really like him. I
Yeah.
really think he's a talented guy, and he just can't stay on the field. And it's not just, you look at his numbers or whatever, but the offense in general just struggles when you don't have that field stretcher out there. Guys like Reed really struggle when you don't have a guy like Watson helping you create space underneath. Same with Tucker Kraft. And I'm hoping that Matthew Golden will be able to help with some of that and whatnot. But Watson's not going to be back till mid to late season, so we're not going to be able to see too much. I'm guessing he's going to get some kind of maybe a 1-year prove it contract or something to kick the can down the road and see if he can stay healthy. But I'm hopeful that happens. That I know initially there were some like soft tissue things. He went to a specialist. It seemed like it got worked out, and then there was some fluky knee injury, which is kind of a different. Now we're dealing with something different. So there's still some hope that he can come back and stay healthy as a receiver, but he's going to have to prove that pretty quick. Otherwise, we're in the Jair situation where we just can't take that risk anymore.
What do you think the battle will be in camp? And we'll talk in a couple months, but in case we don't talk until camp begins and everything is more knowledgeable by then, but who do you think is going to come down to in that wide receiver room? Melton, Heath?
Yeah. So the real interesting storyline of minicamp is Bo Melton. They're cross training as a corner right now, which
Crazy.
A lot of people are like, "Oh, so this is your solution at corner?" It's like,
yeah, right.
No, this is telling you that Bo Melton is a bubble guy that's probably doesn't have a very good chance of making it as a wide receiver. I think that's what we're looking at.
Does that surprise you? I mean, have you seen anything?
It does a little bit but there's just so many guys now. I mean, you look, we got 6 already. Let's include Watson for the sake of it. But even if not, I think Mecole Hardman is going to make. I was unsure, but I think he's going to. He just caught a 70-yard touchdown pass to end practice today. He's been phenomenal. I think Malik Heath is probably ahead of Bo. Those two guys are both very well liked. On top of the fact that Bo Melton is kind of a Matthew Golden-ish guy, and Malik Heath is not. He's more of a Romeo Dobbs-y type of guy. So, when Watson goes down, you have Bo Melton. Now when Watson goes down, you have Mecole Hardman, you have Matthew Golden. You have the smaller speed guys that can stretch the field. So there's just for a lot of reasons. I mean, we all like Bo. He's been doing a good job. I just think he's wide receiver 6, 7, 8, 9 with Watson on the field.
Okay.
So it's it's not a guarantee he could win that job, but I think they saw it and said, let's try him as a corner / special teamer and just see what happens. And they do this a lot. It's usually a bad sign that a guy's about to be cut.
You're right.
And that's my expectation of what's going to happen. A lot of Packer fans are worried he's going to start. It's like, we need to be worried he's going to make the team, I think is the point right now.
Yeah, no, that's not going to, like you said, there's enough talent maybe there that they're overlooking.
There's too many bodies.
Yeah. So, all right. Let's stay on offense and talk about the offensive line next, because round 2, they go with Belton, who had a really good Senior Bowl. So he had that momentum going in.
Yeah.
And then Williams, they grab in round 7. So Williams, again, another 7th rounder, probably just needs to have 1 year on the practice squad in the weight room and go from there. As far as Belton, now we have him here as a left tackle. I remember going over his scouting report before the draft, and everything was expected that he'd be a right tackle prospect. Do you have any idea what their plans are?
If I had to put money today, he'd be a right guard.
Right guard?
I think so, because I do think I don't know. It's a 3-way competition at left tackle between Rasheed Walker, Jordan Morgan, and Anthony Belton. And Morgan is also potential right guard. That is, so it's kind of a convoluted thing. But right now with Rasheed Walker, he got a little banged up. Jordan Morgan's taking first team reps at left tackle. One of those two guys is going to be a left tackle, my assumption, Jordan Morgan or Anthony Belton. It's just a question kind of which. Okay. And then one of them will be the right guard. Doesn't have to be. If none of them's good enough, could be Sean Ryan, Rasheed Walker, whatever. But that's the hope when you invest a 1st and 2nd round into these guys. And with Elton Jenkins, Banks, and Zach Tom locked in, there's only 2 options for your top 2 guys. But yeah, we've had a lot of people banged up. And again, Rasheed is out. Elton because of contract issues. Aaron Banks was sitting out. And we had Monk at center. We had Morgan at left tackle, and then it was Donovan Jennings playing left guard, I think just because of a lack of bodies. I was kind of surprised they didn't put Belton in there, but yeah, it's a very weird thing. We'll have to see. There's going to have to be something that's a give, because I can't imagine we drafted Belton in the second round to be a backup. You know what I mean? So,
well, what's going on with Morgan, the first rounder from last year?
So like I said, he's filling it right now. He is our starting left tackle with Rasheed Walker out with an injury right now. So that's where he's at.
And what if Walker comes back? To Morgan a backup?
So again, there's a lot of rotation going on, but he has been kind of rotating in at left tackle. They were doing a weird thing at OTAs where center and right guard was rotating between Sean Ryan and Jacob Monk. They were kind of flipping back and forth. So they're really trying to figure this whole thing out. We got to figure out who's playing right guard, who's playing left tackle. What does Morgan Belton do? You know, Rasheed is only a left tackle, and he's fighting an uphill battle here because Morgan and Belton both want that job, and I'm sure the Packers want them both to win that job.
Yes.
So we'll see. I mean, it's a lot of people really want Belton to be that left tackle, and he may be, and Jordan Morgan may be the right guard. I know that's what he did a lot of last year, but for me, I mean, it's just a aesthetic thing, I guess, with Anthony Belton just being this massive man mover. I would love to have him on the right side as a guard, and Morgan being a little bit more athletic, a little more trim. I feel like I'd like him at left tackle, but that's not a very deep analysis. That's just kind of where off the top of my head I feel like they should be. But we'll see. We haven't gotten a ton from Belton yet as far as what he's been working on. He has done some left tackle, but that's just kind of where I would put it. My second guess would be Belton left tackle, Jordan Morgan at right guard, kind of like you have it there. But we got to see. It's a very wide open competition between few guys.
And you basically have the same feeling with both Belton and Morgan. Then it's like left tackle, right guard.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well,
with Sean Ryan and Rasheed Walker trying to fight for their jobs there.
And from what you've seen from Walker and Ryan at this point, as a fan or someone just knows the team and knows the coaching staff, it's really in the Packers' best interest that Belton and Morgan live up to their draft status and win those jobs.
It would be nice. I mean, Rasheed Walker can be upgraded. My thought is he's a solid enough pass blocker. The run blocking doesn't exist. Okay. And the Packers really need that. My fear is you go get a big Anthony Belton to help with the run game and you lose something with the pass, which you can't do. You can't go backwards with that. And Rasheed is quite a good pass blocker. Sean Ryan isn't great, but he did take a step from year 1 to year 2, and this is going into year 3. If he takes another step, it's a pretty interesting conversation. If he doesn't, then yeah, he's a backup. So,
okay. Hey,
I mean, obviously, obviously it'd be ideal to have a first and second round guy just come in, be a Zach Tom at their position, and just really get this offensive line going.
Yeah, and then it makes your depth better. If
100%.
Ryan and Walker are backups, that doesn't mean they're bad players. It just means that more talented players beat them out, and that's a good thing. It's a good problem to have. So what's Jenkins is the interesting one, of course, because he's had this banged up history. So is that just one of those things where that's why they drafted Monk, and he's really just the insurance in case Jenkins can't play?
I think so. Yeah, they got a lot of guys, but they're kind of running out of center options, especially now that Jenkins was their backup center and now he's playing center. I don't know who else, aside from, like I said, they're cross-training Sean Ryan, who else they even have that can play center, with any amount of history at the position. So, yeah, Monk is our one sort of designated center. Elton Jenkins, they have some really big plans. They've been talking about him as a center for a really long time. We do have a contract dispute going on right now, which is why he's not practicing. Essentially, he got moved from tackle to guard. So when he got his big contract, it wasn't as big as it could have been because they just shifted him. Now they want to move him to center, and he's saying that's fine, but I don't want another pay cut. I need some assurances here. So that's kind of what they're working through. Is I'll be a team player, but I'm not looking to take another pay cut here.
Okay, and then Banks is probably, well, not probably, definitely the top offensive addition as far as the free agents are concerned. And you said he's a little banged up as well, but other than that,
I think it's all minor. None of these are major, but they're all just kind of off on the side riding bikes right now. But yeah, he's about as locked in as anybody else on that offensive line for that left guard spot.
Okay. All right. So definitely, there's some things there to keep an eye on, but there's also potential for the line to be improved if everybody steps up. And that's what the scouting is all about, and coaching. And you're supposed to get the most out of these guys. And you can see there's a lot of draft picks, a lot of homegrown draft picks. And that's the job of the GM and the scouts to get these guys to become the players they're supposed to become. Okay. And other than that, let's move on back to the defense regarding the draft, and we'll go edge. So we have the two edge guys, 4 and 5. And look, Sorrell's a nice player. A good player. But Oliver's the one that intrigues me the most.
Yeah.
Because I remember watching and hearing about Oliver when he was a freshman at Oklahoma State. And you just had the feeling that after what you saw as his freshman season, wow, when this guy comes out, he's going to be a beast. And then they changed him around a little bit, linebacker, and he wasn't playing just as a pass rusher. And they've kind of gone back and forth there. So I don't know whether that hurt his draft stock or not. But the fact is, I still got to believe now that he's in pro hands that he's going to be a pretty good, nice little player to get in round 5.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. Baron Sorrell kind of has like a Brenton Cox feel to him. He's got a pretty high floor. I'm not sure how high his ceiling is, but he just looks like he's built for that job. He's a good, solid down defensive end that shouldn't be terrible and maybe will be good. Everybody really likes the guy. The whole draft story was fantastic. Colin Oliver is real. There's several things that happened this year that you can just tell the Packers are kind of evolving in certain areas. This is one of them. They never would have touched a guy. I mean, since the Dom Caper days with Clay Matthews and whatnot, they never would have touched a guy like this to play as a defensive end. Just being an undersized designated pass rusher type. They've talked about cross-training him as an inside linebacker as well. Don't really know the status on what they're planning on. I think to start with, he's a pass rusher, and then we'll build on that and see where that goes. But the comment that was made essentially was the way the NFL is evolving with the ball coming out so quick, as much as we need the big guys to be there to compress the pocket, you got to have guys that can get to the quarterback fast, or you're just never going to affect the quarterback with the ball coming out so quick. So we want to start kind of experimenting or moving in the direction of finding guys like Oliver that are just pure speed guys off the edge, which he is, to play that sort of designated pass rush role. So I don't know exactly what that looks like on a Sunday. Do we keep him on the sideline till 3rd and 15 or how that exactly looks? Or maybe they want him to be a linebacker and you just kind of slide him off the edge, when it gets to be that position. I'm not really sure, but he is a very intriguing piece. And, as far as going back and watching a guy's highlights, it doesn't get much better than Colin Oliver. That guy was a monster.
They say anything about the reason that they drafted Sorrell first? They wanted some more edge depth.
Yeah. I mean, they do talk a lot about, character and culture. And they said Barron was a very, very high character culture kind of a guy. Good scheme fit, I think, for what they're looking for with Jeff Hafley. And, that is kind of a question because all these other guys were running that 3-4 scheme with, Gary Van Ness and Enigbare and all that. So it's kind of good to get a couple edge rushers that are maybe a little bit more built for this. But I do think he's a little bit more, safe, whereas Colin Oliver's a little bit more of a wild card, as far as the floor, significantly lower. This may just be a complete bust and it's just not going to work. But it'll be a fun experiment. I'll be very interested to see how they use them and if it ends up working.
Okay, and as far as the room is concerned, because again, we talked about this before, this is a real important aspect of their defense. Gary just seems like a guy that you just never know whether he's going to have a monster season or not.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned Enigbare, and then Lucas Van Ness has been the biggest disappointment at this point in time. So, have you heard anything positive about Van Ness lately?
Well, the only thing I would say is when I kind of dug into it a little bit, if you look at the second half of the year, a lot of guys actually really took off, and Van Ness might have been the best of them.
Okay.
So it's encouraging from that regard. Doesn't mean anything has to be. But the one guy that it didn't really happen for was Kingsley. And so I'm kind of thinking, okay, it's a new system, new scheme. A lot of these guys really picked it up, even including the defensive line in the second half of the year. hopefully that's a real thing, that they were just kind of adapting to this new scheme and the scheme adapting to them a little bit as well. But I feel I kind of coming into it, I was a little leery of Kingsley with this scheme change more than anybody else. And I do think he got left behind. Brenton Cox and Aaron Mosby actually both did a great job. When we lost Preston, they were actually given legitimate opportunities and they took off and ran with it. Brenton Cox is a big fan favorite from the second we picked him up. A lot of people are like, this guy's going to be a stud. And you kind of roll your eyes like, okay, yeah, I'm sure he will. He has been kind of since he got in there. So I would say Kingsley's a guy to keep an eye on if he doesn't take a step. I think Brenton Cox and Mosby and Lucas Van Ness and Rashawn, and now you got 2 draft picks. Kingsley might be kind of struggling here a little bit to keep pace.
Okay, so that sounds promising as far as some of those players are concerned. And yeah, because so you haven't heard anything negative regarding this. This is
I think that's exactly why he fell. So
Yeah.
that was part of the reason why it's like he's really, really good. And it's
tools are there,
right,
but
exactly.
attitude issues. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. But no, there hasn't been anything with the team and him or anything, or
Cool.
off the field issues or anything like that.
Yeah, Mosby, what was he, like a 5th-round pick or something like that by Carolina? Or he's a free agent. Okay, I thought he was a draft pick. Yeah, because I remember. Then again, at the time, the Panthers didn't have a very good edge rush group, and I remember he was. They were really looking for him to see if he could do. He was given the opportunity. I guess things didn't work out there. But you said you've heard some decent things so far from him.
Like I said, when we lost Preston last year, Cox and Mosby kind of stepped into that role, and they did for the limited role they had. I mean, when you look at the numbers are solid.
Okay, well, we're definitely going to keep an eye on those guys then come training camp. And then Brinson was drafted in round 6. And that actually seemed like a pretty good value pick.
Yeah.
A lot of people thought, we thought he could have gone anywhere from round 3 to round 4. He didn't play as much as he would have if he would have been on another program, but Georgia had, studs up and down the depth chart on the defensive line. So he really never had a chance to play full time. But anyway, what did you hear or what have you heard so far about the Brinson draft pick?
Honestly, nothing since he was drafted. I haven't heard a single thing about him. I know he's a super fun guy, real talkative guy. He wants to have his own podcast and all this kind of stuff. So he's a pretty funny guy. I'm excited about him for all the reasons that you said. I know we kind of lost that. Not that it was ever real good, but we lost that sort of nose tackle presence in the middle of the defensive line. And I know Warren is kind of a defensive. A run defense type of a guy more so than anything, and his teammate there, Nazir Stackhouse, even more so, I think. So the duo of those two, I'm actually real excited to see if either one of those two can kind of step up. And obviously, anything you can do if he ends up being a pass rusher, fantastic. But I'm hopeful that between the two, one of them can kind of step up and give us that run defense presence that we need, because I think Kenny is. Especially, he always has been, but especially at this stage, is more of a pass rusher. Wyatt is a pure pass rusher. Wooden and Brooks were edge rushers. I mean, it's just a group of go get the quarterback type of guys. So, be nice to get a few that can kind of anchor and hold back that offensive line a little bit.
Yeah, I remember you also mentioned that Clark had not really been playing as well recently, the last several years, as he had when he was really one of the better defensive tackles in the NFL. So he's getting a little older. So it's kind of hard to expect that all of a sudden, the trajectory is going to turn right back around. But, what do you think that's about? And do you think that there is an opportunity for him to kind of, have one or two more good years left?
Yes and no. So there was like the elite years. That was probably 2020 was maybe his last year, somewhere in there. He kind of dropped off to being good. This past year was awful. And we just found out, I don't know when it was, that week 1 in Brazil on that sloppy turf, he ended up getting I think it was an ankle injury or something that he was battling the entire year.
Okay.
So we lost our quarterback and our defensive tackle in that game. So that kind of shot our season dead. But I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I don't usually like that excuse, but you can definitely see how big and drastic of a drop off of a season he had, even from last year and years prior. So I don't think he ever is going to be back to the premier elite days, but I think he can be much better than he was last year. At least that's my hope.